The Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts, IDFA, is a proud sponsor of Purse Strings. IDFA is the premier organization dedicated to the certification, education, and promotion of the use of financial professionals in the divorce arena. IDFA provides specialized training to accounting, financial, and legal professionals in the field of pre-divorce financial planning. To find out more about earning the Certified Divorce Financial Analyst designation, visit institutedfa.com.
Coming up on today's edition of Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about, our guest is Melissa Cox of Fetterman Investments.
Besides being one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, Melissa is a certified financial planner and financial coach.
Yes, and we are so eager to talk to Melissa today as she shares her expertise about the impact of student loan debt and retirement.
This is such an important topic here at Purse Strings because we know that women carry 2/3 of the student loan debt, and it can have an impact on those actions on your retirement.
Gloria Steinem once said, "We will never solve the feminization of power until we solve the masculinity of wealth." Barbara Provost and Maggie Nielsen are the team at Purse Strings that will help you navigate the ins and outs of financial independence so that you can be financially fearless. This is Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about.
Welcome, Melissa. We are so eager to hear from you and share your expertise and insight with our communities of women. Before we dive in, we'd love you to share a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Melissa Cox. I am a certified financial planner and a financial coach in Dallas. I specialize in helping families plan for college, and that includes the 3 stages of college, which is stage 1, saving for college. Stage 2 is saving on college, and stage 3 is saving after college. So the student loans and paying everything off is definitely in that stage 3, which is where we make the biggest impact on saving for retirement, as well as getting things paid off. One of the biggest reasons that I got into focusing in college planning and in debt is because I was meeting so many young professionals that wanted to save for their future, but they were so saddled with debt and so overwhelmed that their budgets had become so tight and trying to figure out how to make the payments. They didn't know how to save. So it became a wonderful experience for me to help them and empower them to learn how to conquer everything and to creating a balanced financial plan that left them feeling empowered and where they had a focus and a reason to keep going.
That's awesome. I know it's tough, right, Mags? Speaking from someone who has a lot of student loan debt.
It's definitely a story we hear all the time, and it's hard to, plan for today, plan for tomorrow, and pay back, things that you've done before. So I'm super excited to dive into this conversation.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit. Let's just touch base on the student relief program. We've heard a lot about it. Just give us the highlights.
Yes. So it is going to be a wonderful opportunity for a lot of people. The numbers that I believe I saw were something where 43 million people could potentially be impacted by this decision. At the moment, there'll be approximately 20 million people that could automatically have their debts paid off because they're in their debt balances are under $20,000 or under the threshold where just this one-time debt forgiveness will allow them to be debt-free. They are giving $10,000 to people that have adjusted gross incomes, if you're an individual, of $125,000 and $250,000 for head of households, as well as married filing jointly. So that's the biggest part of that. If you'd received a Pell Grant, or if your family had received a Pell Grant while you or your children were going through school, you're going to get an extra $10,000 for a total of 20. Now, if your loan balance is less than 20, you're not going to get that 20. They'll pay off your loans and the rest can roll over to somebody that is in need of it.
Wow, that's great. So Pell loans, can you explain a little bit about what a Pell loan is or how you would know if you had a Pell loan?
Yes. So the number one place where I go to check everything is I live in student aid reports on studentaid.gov. The best thing that you can do for yourself is to log in there, make sure you know your username, your password. It is your financial loan history. every federal loan that you've ever taken is going to be on studentaid.gov. Private loans, not necessarily, but if you've ever received a Pell Grant or any other types of grants, they're going to be available there. So Pell Grants are federally funded grants that are usually given to undergrad students that have financial need. It's generally for people with households under 99,000 in adjusted gross incomes. Now, I have seen some people that have twins or two kids in college at the same time receive Pell Grants. It just depended on the university and some other things going on at that time.
Got it. Yeah, great opportunities for people to take advantage of this great debt relief program. And like we said, the lion's share of debt is held by women, and we're all about empowering women and ensuring women get what they need so that they can move ahead as well.
Yeah.
Great. So thanks for touching on that. I know there's a lot of information on the internet, but just touching on that is really, really helpful just to kick off this program, because we also want to talk about, your expertise, your insights, your experiences with the student loan debt that so many have and what the impact is on those. And I know you started to share a story with us about it. Can you give us some insights?
Yes, I work with a lot of people that are very highly educated, and they work in nonprofits, and that's not where the money is. So as educated as they are, having these amounts of student loans, it's tough. I've also worked with a lot of parents that are helping. They were late to the game when it came to planning for college, and things didn't get done as nicely and prettily as they should. So when it came time to funding the college, it was necessary to take out Parent Plus loans. And in particular, one couple came in and we were all a little bit shocked to see that they have $497,000-ish in Parent Plus loans.
Wow.
How can they even give someone that much money?
It blows my mind.
Is there any ceiling on the amount of money people can get for student loans?
No. You look at doctors and attorneys and people that are in graduate school, and I mean, it's not uncommon, honestly, to see people with six figures in student loans.
So the Parent Plus loan means that those parents took out loans on behalf of their children who were attending colleges.
Yes. Parent Plus loans can be good in certain circumstances. They are also crippling, especially for people that are on tighter incomes moving into retirement. As we all know, once you're no longer employed, and parents at some point will be, your income becomes very tight. You're either limited to Social Security or to pensions or to the small amount of savings that you have. Well, as a parent, if you're taking out these Parent Plus loans and you're responsible for these payments, it means you're not able to save as much for retirement. And then once you get into retirement, you're saddled with this debt from anywhere from 10, depending on how much you're taking out. I mean, if you're going to pay $497,000 back in 10 years, that's
a large monthly payment. I can tell you that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I only have 2 kidneys and I need both of them. So.
Right. And is the interest on those loans compounding?
It is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's compounding. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's unreal. So, and think about these parents that they start paying, they retire, and now they're in retirement on a limited budget.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have these student loans to pay. That's why people that are in the 50 and above bracket are some of the fastest defaulting people in the student loan world.
No one explained when we were going to school that you could still be holding these at age 50.
Right.
That was not discussed by any point.
No.
And it's just amazing to me, being so young and naive, how much they just let you take out and, convince your parents to take out.
Yeah. And that's where the system really is broken, because we are telling children, and they're children. They've got no jobs, no financial experience. They're coming out of high school, 17, 18 years old, never had a job in their life, that all of a sudden they're going to be signing up for these student loans, or their parents will have to make up the difference. And for some parents, I understand it, because it's educate your child at any cost. education is your legacy. And I understand that. But there's a certain point that it's not valid, especially when you're hurting your own financial future and your financial situations. When student loans first came out, you had just a few different options. You had the standard 10-year loan repayments, you had an extended, and then they've morphed into the graduated and the graduate extended, which just extends everything out a lot longer. And in my humble opinion, that's where things started to get broken, because when you're doing the standard payments, at least you're meeting the initial interest requirements when it comes to loan, as you would on a mortgage. When they started because people's loans balances got bigger and bigger, they started the income-driven repayment plans, because who can afford $4,000 a month? Honestly,
not me.
It's impossible. So these income-driven repayment programs stretched things out from 10 years to 20 years, and it brings in the poverty line, and there's different calculations based on which formula you're using. And sometimes your payments can be $30, $40, depending on what your income is and how many people are in your household, the poverty lines and all that sort. Well, you can imagine what the monthly interest is going to be on a really large loan like that.
Well, with compounding interest, even on a mortgage, it's not compounding.
No.
It's not compounding interest. But on a student loan, those students don't realize compounding interest just compounds to the point where it's just unreasonable that you have more loan debt, even though you've been paying it. Your balance is going up, not down.
Right. I was going to say that $40 is nothing. You're not making a debt. You're only having more debt.
Right. So when we hear students and parents complaining that I've been paying on my loan for 20 years and the balance is never reduced, this is why.
Mm-hmm.
It's broken.
It's heartbreaking to me because, and I get it, there's a lot of people who say, you signed for that loan, you're responsible to pay it back. I get it. Except I think there should have been a limit and a class or an understanding of what the obligation is, and an amortization schedule that says this is how long you're going to be paying this for this many years. So it's very clear. And it's not really, it's like, everyone's doing it. Everyone takes out student loans. Just sign here. That's how it's done.
Right.
And the impact is heartbreaking.
It is. And when you're struggling to pay, and especially for women, women coming out of college are typically earning 26% less on average than men do. So we've got that factor. Women are also responsible for, a lot of us are in the sandwich generation. So we're responsible for taking care of our children as well as our aging parents or any kind of grandparents, and taking care of the household, which is also limiting our income and our earning potential.
And so many times we need an extra degree just to start getting paid the same, which is an extra $70,000 at least.
Exactly. And I believe one of the stats I saw yesterday was women are 40% more likely to earn an advanced graduate degree than a man, because the earning potential.
Yep.
Which just increases the debt load.
Mm-hmm.
And increases their chances of being in debt longer and not being able to save for retirement.
Because then they're going to leave the workforce if they have children or have to take care of a sick family member. Data will tell you that it's the women that will stay home to take care of the family members. So it lessens their ability, first of all, to save for retirement, and second of all, to consistently have income and to really leverage and use the education that, she earned. So it's really a complex problem at so many levels. But I do have to ask you this question. What happens if you have student loan debt and you die? Where does that debt go?
If it is a parent plus loan, the loan dies with the parent. And that's when it becomes it's not my favorite topic to bring up with parents. But unfortunately, it is necessary, because nature always wins. And until somebody finds a cure for that, hopefully they put me on the list first. But it's one of the planning tools that we unfortunately use. And it's ugly and it's not fun to talk about, but it's very real. And it's a good thing that those loans at that point don't get transferred down to the children.
Right.
But what if it's not a parent plus loan?
If
the child, or if let's say Maggie has some loans and something happens to Maggie, who's responsible?
I'm pretty sure it dies with me.
Yeah.
as a government loan. Now, if it's a private loan, that's a different story.
Yeah, if it's a private loan, that's a different story. Federal
Okay.
loans, you're correct.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about, let's flip it a little bit. How do we not get into this place? How do we plan for student loans and not have an impact? What are some action steps people can consider or think about or take? What's your advice, Melissa?
So the biggest way we can make an impact on student loans is by planning, which sounds cliche coming from a financial planner, but that's really the college planning process is broken. Where we start planning for college is after we get accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got to figure out how to pay for it. That's not how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
We should start is having conversations with our children when they're in 8th grade, 9th grade, and setting a college budget. Just like with mortgages, we're pre-approved for financing for a mortgage and the types of houses we have.
Right.
We've got to set the same type of thing for colleges. What's our college budget? If you're looking to go to an expensive school, what kind of student are you? And there's a lot of different planning factors that come into there. But if you know what your budget is and you know what your cash flow is, and if the children are wanting to go in an expensive college and they're willing to put some skin in the game, so to speak,
right,
then it can impact your financial loans and your borrowing decisions. There's colleges out there and it's not necessarily cheaper to go to a state school.
Right.
Because state schools don't have as much money to give. So if you're a high merit student, meaning you've got great grades and all of the acumen that comes with that, and a low earning family, there's colleges that are going to cater to your needs and have that money for you.
Yeah. The word is planning, right? It's just like anything else. You can't decide, I'm going to buy a house the next day you want to buy a house. You really have to plan for down payment and, really having the finances in order to make that large investment, which this is a large investment. And I know there are investing vehicles like 529 plans and things like that, that parents can take and start making contributions to on behalf of the child, when they're younger, just to get a start, a head start. But I do like the idea of having conversations with your child, looking at what kind of student they are, and getting some options on the table.
Yeah, it's very important to have those conversations. And we need to learn as a society. So many of us, including myself, are taught money is taboo.
Not anymore. That's why we're here.
Right. Yes. And that's, I champion this every single day. I don't want you to go out and scream, I've got $400,000 in debt, because people might not look as great at you, and not just because they won't understand, but having the conversations in our families and among our friends, it really will go a lot further.
Yeah. And well, Meg, you've told me that you've talked to some of your peers in college and they never really planned for it. They just wanted to go where they wanted to go.
Yeah, it was always interesting because we did have the conversation of like you said, some schools, are cheaper, but they don't give you as many loans or scholarships, where a private school might give you some scholarships. So it was always checking the bottom line at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have some people who were like, no, I've never sat down and compared them. I just chose the school and then we planned accordingly, which I don't really know if that's a thing, but sure. So it was interesting. I was very surprised at the time that people didn't have these conversations.
Yeah, they're being reactive when it comes to college planning instead of being proactive and planning on the front end. It's possible to narrow down your college choices before you even step foot on a campus, because I can't tell you how many colleges I visited when I was young, and I knew I was going to go there because they had awesome things like Chick-fil-A or
a great workout room.
Right. Yeah. Things that I wasn't exposed to when I was growing up, and it hooks. It's a nice grab, and it's the idea of going off to college, and it's sexy and it's fun and adventurous and
very enticing.
There's so much FOMO if you don't go,
Exactly.
There's so much hype.
Exactly. One of the best decisions my mom ever made for me, in being a young high school student, I had gotten a few pretty much full rides because I was a decent student at that point. And She looked at me and said, "Sorry, you're staying here in Texas." And being the little brat that I was at that age, I said, "I'm not. You're trying to ruin my life." Well, I ended up in community college, and it was the best decision that my mom ever made for me. And to this day, I am extremely thankful that she had the foresight to guide me that way.
I went there.
Yeah.
I went there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the best education. My education at community college was hands down better than a lot of the education that I got from my actual university.
It's a great way to go. Yeah. It's a great way to go. And people poo-poo it, but I think it's brilliant in the sense of being affordable. You're going to take those same classes at a very inexpensive cost, and it's just going to launch you to better opportunities, and it's the more efficient, more effective way to go. And I will tell you this, and I do have a doctorate in adult and higher learning, so I've had a lot of schooling, and I believe in education, but not everybody needs to go to college just to go to college.
No.
You really need to find out, before you jump into a big expensive commitment, if it's really what you want to do or if it's what the pressure is telling you to do. So it's really, you got to have a conversation about that as well.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And be honest with yourself and know your child. Just because you went to A&M or to Princeton or wherever you went, no, doesn't mean that they have to follow in your footsteps. Let your child be your child and let them develop into the person that they're supposed to be and not who you want them to be.
I love that. I love that. So for those of us who took the leap, went to school, and have the debt now, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but here we are now.
Yeah.
And we're trying to plan for retirement as well. Yeah. What tips do you have to kind of start balancing all these items together?
There's so much that goes into it, and you can use the options, the standard 10 years, and you can find a payment plan that fits your needs. The good thing about the standard 10-year, the extended, the graduate, and the graduate extended is when you're done with that term, your loans are completely paid off. Mm-hmm. If you are going into an income-driven repayment program and your payments are not even going to be your interest payments, there's going to be a little bit more planning, and they're more affordable. But this is where things like working in the nonprofit sector, at the moment you can apply. If you've been working for 10 years, you can apply for the limited waiver program. And as long as you've been making payments and you're in a qualified employer, meaning your public service, you're working for a nonprofit, school districts, teachers, firefighters, military, they will qualify. And this limited waiver program will correct a lot of the misinformation that's been given in the past by the loan servicers. So many people had been paying on their loans for 5 to 7, 8, sometimes 8 years. At that point, they decided to consolidate their loans. And what they were never told is when they consolidated, their shot clock starts over.
Wow.
That's an asterisk that you definitely want to keep your eye on.
Right.
Oh
yeah.
Gosh.
Right. Yeah. So now, instead of having 3 years left to have loan forgiveness, now you've got another 10. So this limited waiver program that was announced in October of last year is aimed at correcting that type of stuff. They're going back and they're recounting all of the information, any payments that you've made within the last 10 years, as long as you were with a qualified employer and you've been working full time. So they're correcting people that were guided towards the wrong types of payments, towards the wrong types of loans. If you have the older FFEL or the family loans, they were phased out in 2010. So if you borrowed before 2010, you'll likely qualify for this. You're going to have to reconsolidate your loans, but at this point, the reconsolidation doesn't restart your time clock. So it's going to count all of the payments that you had made during that point. It's also counting payments where people were guided into deferment or they had made late payments and barely missed the windows, which is also an amazing benefit because it really is helping some of the others to get that. And there's a lot of people that are being forgiven under this program, but you have got to act before October of this year. And the
Oh.
loan servicers are so backed up at this moment.
I
that
bet.
it's a nightmare. It really is. So for everybody thinking that I'm automatically going to be forgiven and there's no work to do, I'm just going to sign a piece of paper. That's not how it goes. There's work to do, especially with the limited waiver program. Ideally, your loan balance is enough where you're going to be forgiven with the Biden announcement. But if you're not and you still have loans to be forgiven, you've got to make sure your loans are consolidated into the correct type of loan. You've got to be on the right repayment plan now, which is one of the income driven payment plans. You've got to make sure your taxes are filed and you're on, everything is there. You've got to make sure your employer certifications and your employment history and everything there is done. And it takes a little while. So we're in September.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get cracking.
Yeah.
This has been a wealth of information, Melissa. Thank you so much for sharing all of these important points. What was the website again? Can you just mention it again? The student aid? Is it student aid?
Yes, studentaid.gov. Is where
Okay.
you're going to go for your student aid to find what types of loans, where your servicers are. Make sure you're going in there to check that, because so many people are also disrupted when all of the loan servicers, there was a big kerfuffle with people exiting and shifting, and some people don't even know where their loans are now. So
Yeah.
make sure you're getting in there and doing that. The studentaid.gov, if you are eligible for one of the limited waiver programs, there is a really great, it's called the PSLF help tool. And you go in there and it guides you through the process of getting all of your loan forgiveness forms filled out. You need the tax ID numbers for your employers, as well as the dates that you were employed. And it will pre-populate the forms for you. So you just send them to your employer and they get them back, and then you send them into the government. You can either mail them or fax them, but all of that information is in that help tool.
Awesome. So besides that amazing website, how can people get a hold of you, Melissa, if they want to talk to you and have questions?
Yeah, so you can follow me on social media. I've got my Instagram and my Facebook, which is Melissa Cox CFP, or you can just reach out through the website Fetterman Investments and give me a call, and we can talk you through all of your loan planning needs.
Awesome. We love that. Melissa is also one of our Purse Strings Approved professionals, so you can check her out on pursestrings.co, as well as reach out to any of our other professionals there who can help you out.
All right. Well, that wraps up conversations on student loans, the impacts on retirement, the impacts to women, and helpful tips, helpful resources. So thank you, Melissa, again for sharing your expertise. And until then, wishing you all to be financially fearless.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.
The Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts, IDFA, is a proud sponsor of Purse Strings. IDFA is the premier organization dedicated to the certification, education, and promotion of the use of financial professionals in the divorce arena. IDFA provides specialized training to accounting, financial, and legal professionals in the field of pre-divorce financial planning. To find out more about earning the Certified Divorce Financial Analyst designation, visit institutedfa.com.